Hey, what's up? Pixelflux here, and today I'm gonna give you a little video tour of my gaming laptop that I do all of my gaming on at the moment as of 13th of January 2016. This is an Alienware 18, and I suppose let's begin the tour. First off, the desktop. It's a 4K screenshot of my The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt gameplay. Really like this particular kind of dialogue moment. It just looked really nice and realistic. So I made a screenshot and just use it as my wallpaper for the time being. As you can see, I like to keep my desktop fairly clean, with all the crap being in my crap folder. So anything that I kind of download, use, whatever, eventually goes there. And that's about that for the desktop. So the specs, which is probably the most important bit of the laptop. I've got dual GTX 980M graphics cards, 8 gigabytes each. So there's plenty of horsepower in this laptop to run the latest games at ultra settings. If you're thinking in desktop terms, then these two cards combined deliver the performance pretty much equal to a desktop 980 Ti or a GTX Titan X. So you can imagine what kind of frame rates I'm getting. With SLI, give or take, depending on the game, sometimes I'm getting actually better frame rates than the Titan X. Sometimes a little bit worse, but even if you're getting, say, 10% less performance than a Titan X, does it really matter? You're still hitting that 60 anyway, so not a big deal. For the processor, I've got an Intel Core i7-4700MQ, and it kind of deceives you here. It says it's running at 2.4 gigahertz, which is complete and utter bullshit, and I can prove that by going to my XTU. I've done a little 5-minute stress test just to show that my core frequency, which you can see here, under 100% load, does not move from 3.45 gigahertz. And there's no thermal throttling, there's no power limit throttling. I've fixed everything. Actually, you can see that stress test was there. Anyway, so 4.45 gigahertz on all 4 cores. That's not one core. Speed, single core speed is 3.66. And let's see if I've got, there you go. So I've got my multipliers set to 36, 35, 34, 34, and that's the maximum that this particular processor goes on this particular laptop. I've seen these same processors a little bit more lenient in other laptops. They've got kind of higher core multipliers, which I wasn't sure about. I think they were modified, but this is as high as that goes. And I've achieved an additional 0.05 gigahertz on 4-core by just bumping up this reference clock speed on the motherboard. Now, I've actually reached 4.5 gigahertz on 4 cores. 3.5 gigahertz on 4 cores before. But I think I was pushing something like 1.3, 103 megahertz here. It wasn't particularly stable. This motherboard doesn't really like being base overclocked. So that is that. However, I've got on my table a CPU upgrade, which I will install in the upcoming couple of days, and that is the Core i7-4930MX. That's an Extreme Series processor, which has got unlocked multipliers, and I've seen these puppies run at about 4.5 gigahertz 4-core, overclocked. I think the base core clock is about 3.9 gigahertz, something like that, maybe 4 gigahertz. So basically I'll be running it happily at around 4 gigahertz, which is going to be at least a 550 megahertz boost over what I've got currently anyway. And obviously being unlocked, it's a little bit better. So that's for the processor. I've got 32 gigs of RAM, maxed out on this motherboard. So yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, I started off with 16 gigs, which was not enough for what I do. I do a lot of photo editing, I do some video editing, I do a lot of 3D work. So 16 gig just didn't cut it. 32 is where it's at for me. The screen resolution is 1080p, the kind of the golden standard for today's gaming, I suppose. And the screen itself is, if you check it out here, is running at 110 hertz, and that's not a typo. If I go to this display settings, advanced, and display adapter properties, my monitor is indeed running at 110 hertz. This is actually overclocked from 60 hertz, and this is kind of the more or less maximum that the screen of this particular laptop can run at under 980 ms without giving me any perceivable artifacts. So I find it pretty good. I mean, 60 hertz compared to 110 hertz. I mean, it's not quite 120, but trust me, the difference is just massive. If you've ever touched a 75 hertz monitor or overclocked from 60 to 75, as is kind of possible on most desktops, that's where it kind of clips out anyway. So 60 to 75, you probably noticed a huge difference already anyway, so imagine 60 to 110. So again, I'm getting no perceivable artifacts, so that's pretty good. Laptop screens overclock well anyway. As for the drivers, just box standard Nvidia drivers, using the latest one as of now. There you go, just checked it today, actually, like half an hour ago. So that's that. And Windows 10 Pro 64-bit. So that is that. Let's have a look. What else should I show you? So A12 BIOS, for those of you who have Alienware systems, that's the latest one, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to change my graphics cards. Now actually the laptop came with Nvidia GTX 780Ms. I think I've mentioned that before. I've bought the new SLI kit and, you know, just upgraded, because having a screen at 110 hertz, you want those frames. So I had to upgrade. Anyway, I've got a pair of 780Ms laying around with an SLI cable. If you've got a compatible laptop, Clevo, Alienware, whatever, if you want those cards, obviously not free, but you know, if you want them, they're still not sold. I haven't really bothered selling them actually. So if you see this video, you want them, just you know, message me. The computer is named Alien Hole, and that is actually a little bit of a play on my previous computer's name, which was this. And if you've played Doom 3 and you were paying attention, you probably know what this is. And that's about it. DirectX 12, all the good stuff, Nvidia Inspector, and gigabytes of video memory, yada yada yada, slightly overclocked, 2 cards, you know, there's no rocket science there. SLI enabled. I'm also using DSR for some of the games, and I've enabled all the ratios. Usually I just use the 4x one, which is 4K. Sometimes I use, I think it's the 178, which is the 1440p. So that's about it. If you want a nice quality DSR on a 1080p screen, then I suggest using the DSR smoothness, actually setting that smoothness to between 10 and 25%. 33, which is the default, is usually too fuzzy. 10 to 25, depending on what your screen's like and what the game is like, is gonna be much better. If you're playing 4K, then I suppose it doesn't really make that much of a difference, but you know, definitely between 10 and 25 for something less than 4K. what else is there? Suppose not really much. I've seen my CPU, my laptop. Anyway, so yeah, this is a beast of a machine, and actually it's got pretty good style as well. I mean, if you've seen what Alienware 18 looks like, I quite like the design of it. It's a big bulky laptop with the metal finish. I think it's probably magnesium or something like that. Not even sure. Too lazy to find out. I can change all these zone colors to whatever I like. I've actually got the keyboard colors to alternate, to just kind of slide, if you will. So say for example, if it starts as blue here, it goes to blue there, and then to there, and it changes from blue to orange, and that's basically the table for those three zones there. So it's kind of like a little wave effect on the keyboard where the color just kind of travels. Yeah, I've got it blinking. This simulation's nowhere near as accurate as the actual thing is. It just doesn't look anywhere near as bad as this. It looks really quite nice, and it does it slowly. But yeah, you can customize the lights, which I quite like. You can customize the macros. You can customize the lights on a per program basis. So say for example, if I'm working with Skype, if I'm chatting, it's got the Skype kind of cyan color. If I'm in Winamp, I've got the green. If I'm looking at some photos, I've got the lights turned off completely because I don't want anything distracting me. If I'm in Steam, I've got this orange glow to kind of complement the Steam colors. And yeah, just After Effects purple. So that's about that. And what I like about this particular thing as well is I've got the macro keys there on the side of the keyboard, which I can program to whatever. So when I was playing RuneScape, I was using a lot of these macros, which are freaking great. What else? Alienware, was it Tactics, Adrenaline, performance monitoring, real time. So, it gives you kind of like default core loads and GPU usage and whatever. Something that you would probably get from something like EVGA Precision X or MSI Afterburner, I suppose, or Ada 64. You can get this for free with the laptop. I would probably assume that this installs on other systems anyway, because it's just the program, isn't it? But obviously the drivers are not going to be there for all these lights. So that, I think, kind of concludes that. It's a laptop, plays games, it's freaking brilliant. I'm upgrading the CPU. Actually, I've got 2 terabytes of SSD storage in there as well. So I suppose that's worth mentioning. I've got one Samsung EVO 850 EVO Pro 1 terabyte 2.5 inch SSD, and I've got another one which is a Samsung 850 EVO, not the Pro, the regular one, 1 terabyte mSATA SSD, and then I've got a third hard drive which is just my old 2.5 inch 750 gigabyte 7200 RPM hard drive that came with the laptop. Used to be my primary drive, and it's not anymore. So I hope you like this little guide. Gives you a little insight on what I'm playing on. Yeah, that's about it. Hope you like it. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it. If you've got any questions, leave a comment. If you need some help, leave a comment. I read through all the comments anyway. Always try to reply to them if they're not something stupid like, oh, I like you, or whatever. So I'm hoping to upload more game videos in the future. So That's that, because you know there's a system that runs everything. Anyway, so thank you guys very much for watching, and we will see you next time.